All right, thank you everyone for attending and welcome to the 2021 Virtual STEM Fair. It is my pleasure to start off tonight's panel. It is incredible that we are able to host panelists and attendees from all around the country. Over the course of this week, you will have an opportunity to hear panels discussing a wide range of STEM areas. It is amazing to see what science can do, from create a COVID vaccine in record time to the Perseverance rover on Mars. Before starting, I want to say thank you to the amazing team that helped organize this event. As I mentioned earlier, this entire week is full of panelists from many areas of science. Tonight, we will hear from our Lightning Talk speaker, Sarah, followed by panelists from computer science. Tomorrow, the engineering panel and showcase panel will be on Friday, and I want to encourage everyone to come to all of the panels. These panels cover a wide range of topics, and you never know what you might find. You can go to our website and join through the event links there. Recordings of all sessions will be available at the end of the week on our website. After each panel, including today, students are able to engage with panelists by asking them questions. You can ask questions to the panelists by using the Q&A feature. To access the Q&A feature, you should see a chat bubble button with a question mark. If you click this, you can type your questions for the panelists. You can also use the Q&A if you have any questions about STEM Fair. Okay, next we will have our Lightning Talk speaker, Sarah. After she gives her talk, we will have the Q&A. Without further ado, please welcome Sarah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Pierre-Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you guys today about how I turn my theater major into the technical, successful job that I've had. So this all started when I graduated from acting school, and I needed something to supplement my income in between my acting gigs. So I started doing temporary work throughout the Seattle area. And I was a receptionist and did some basic work in the office, but there was always a computer nearby. So I'd ask permission. So they let me use the computer, and I taught myself the computer and also brushed up on my typing skills. Fast forward, a friend of mine was working at Cellular One, which is one of the premier cellular companies back in the time. So I wanted to work at Cellular One. And the real reason I wanted to work at Cellular One, they gave you a free cell phone. A free cell phone. So I'm an actress with a free cell phone. No one had a free cell phone unless you were rich, famous, lawyer, or doctor. So here I was, my free cell phone. I was happy to start working. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. In order to program or do anything with your phone, you had to get up from your computer, go to another computer, and do basic programming to do call forwarding, call waiting, voicemail, all those kind of things. So I learned how to do that. It was one of the greatest things ever. Got to memorize code, and I had no plan I was going into this. Throughout my career there, I actually did customer service, tech desk, marketing, sales support, and I went into corporate sales. In corporate sales, I worked with Safeco, Costco, Gates Foundation, Mariners. I got to be in the room with CEOs, CEIOs, and learning so much about negotiation and what goes on behind the scenes at corporations. From there, I went to another technology company. Back in the day, I know you guys are young, I'm much older than you, but you did not have the gate past the texting gateway like you do now with the cellular company and with your smartphone. So American Idol and all those things passed through a gateway that was usually run by another company. And I worked at that company and sold those gateways. So if you wanted your horoscope and all those things, it came through there. Then later, cellular companies started to take over that. And also smartphones became smarter. The next thing I went into was going into data analytics. Had no clue what was going on. Once again, a friend told me I should go check it out. So I did. I went and checked it out as a contractor thinking, well, we'll just see what happens. I started working there. It was amazing. I got the opportunity to start a department. In the department I started, I hired people right out of college that were maybe their first, second, or maybe third job. I ran a team, and the team called on all of our trainings, all of our events and things like that. And also the team called on leads that then passed over to sales. I got to create that from the ground up. The one thing about being in the tech world, it is free college. You get to take certifications, you get training, world-class training. You get a chance to network with people that you wouldn't get a chance to network with. It is an opportunity that I think everyone should go into. And I'm here to tell you, you do not have to have a technical degree to go into these fields. All you have to have is some creativity, a willingness to learn, and an imagination, and you can go into these fields. Remember, in the tech field, there are so many things. You've got sales, marketing, social media, you've got development. Yes, there are people that are engineers, but there are people who also do other things like writing. There's just so many different things. So as you guys go out of high school into college and start doing internships, realize internships at these companies can take you far. Also, make sure you take the time to pick the technology that's fun. The one thing you must have heard from my story is everything I picked was something that I ended up really liking to do. And you immerse yourself in it. Take the time to really learn the technology. It'll serve you well going forward, and it'll get you recognized and known for promotions. Also, network, network, network. The more you know people, when they're in those rooms making those decisions to promote or who to hire, the more people know you, the more they know what you can do, the better chance you have of being promoted. So that's how I did it. Yes, an acting student became the top at a technology company. And I'm proud to say, as of September 2020, I started my own company. So I have my own company where I do coaching, and also I do a D&I work for facilitation and creating D&I, motivational speaking, and several other things. Because I've decided I want to be able to share this with everyone, all the things I learned. And I've always wanted to take everything I've learned and be able to give that to other people to help them through the technical world. So happy to say most of the people that I hired 18 people during my career in that job where I had a team. 14 of them are still with that company, and they are thriving within their jobs in the technical world. So don't shy away from it. Especially, I want to encourage women to go into tech. Please, we need more young women in tech. And make sure, just because like I don't have the scientific mind. I've been listening to talks this week. These people are brilliant. I do not come from that field. But like I said, there is so many jobs available in the tech world and so many different kinds of technology. So don't be afraid of it and dive right in. So I have a special gift for you guys today to get you started on your technical journey. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and whoever's helping me here, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the video. Actually, one moment, I have to go back. Okay, we're going to try that again. Okay, we're going to turn the sound on. Now we're going to share a video. Okay, I'm going to show you a short video on this wonderful free thing I'm going to give to you. So because you're a student, and long as you're of the age 13 and above, you can get a free Tableau license for a year. Yeah, you heard me, a free license. And I'm going to give you a little video on what Tableau does. Highly suggest that you take advantage of this. Learning Tableau is a very sought after skill in every job market out there. If you know Tableau, a lot of times it will be a foot in the door, and especially as you go for internships. A lot of people have been putting their resumes into Tableau. So let me give you a short snippet into what Tableau is.
Tableau Desktop helps you see the stories in your data. It's visual analytics anyone can use. Drag and drop to find trends and outliers. Effortlessly drill into your data and use quick table calcs like running total to see the bigger picture. Connect to the data you care about, whether it's a spreadsheet, database, or big data. Access data warehouses, cloud applications, and cloud databases from a single application. Mix and match from different sources. Tableau brings all your data together in one simple view. Sort, highlight, drill down, or filter your data in seconds. In this view, we can easily spot underperforming products. With Tableau, you can keep on asking questions in the data until you discover the root cause. Change your perspective to discover something new. With a click, the scatter plot transforms into a tree map, highlighting that Western Asia has several unprofitable regions. Use drag and drop forecasts to spot trends, identify opportunities, and ask questions like, will I sell more next year? Add calculations to extend your data. Transform your data into powerful interactive dashboards. Then customize them for different devices. Share your analysis securely on Tableau Online or Tableau Server. Your entire organization can access these interactive dashboards from any browser or mobile device to find their own answers. Tableau makes analyzing data fast, easy, and beautiful for everyone. It's designed to help you be smarter, so you can make better decisions faster. Tableau. Answer questions at the speed of thought.
So you guys can go ahead and download Tableau for free. You'll be able to download it. I would highly suggest that you do that. And I'm going to try to quit sharing my screen here. I would highly suggest that you do that. And it is one way to learn it is to go onto what we call Tableau Public. It is a free website where people put public vizzes up. Go ahead and download a viz. This is what I did to learn. That way you won't hurt anyone's data. Download the viz to your desktop and play with it. And with your own Tableau here and the viz here, and be able to play with it and get to learn it. Like I said, cannot suggest anymore. It's free for you. All you gotta do is go to tableau.com and sign up. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a lot of questions for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that talk. I know you all probably have many questions, and we will open up the Q&A right now. Please keep in mind we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Just to reiterate, to ask a question, you should see a chat bubble button with a question mark. If you click this, you can type your question for the panelists. Moderators will read your question. So, Sarah, our first question is, how can you combine degrees like business and engineering, like what you did with computer science and theater?
So one thing you can do is, like, as you go into tech, find out, like I said, pick a technology you really like. That's what I would say first, but it definitely could be done. So my minor is business, major is theater, and just pick something that's really going to bring out those things that you love to do is more of the key than even worrying about the degree. It's great that you're, what's what you said, engineering? Trying to think of the 2 degrees you said. Business and what was the other one?
Engineering, yeah.
Yeah, engineering.
Yeah.
So yeah, in engineering, I would say go into the development, but maybe with the business side, you go into product development, not just developing the software, but actually the product and how we put it out to the customer. So maybe product development would be good.
Awesome, thank you. So I've got another question from the audience. How has your experiences been shaped by being a woman of color in technology, and what difficulties did you face and how did you overcome them?
That's a good one.
Thank you.
There was a lot, and I think the biggest thing being a woman, period, in technology is making sure you're heard. I think a lot of times you get afraid to speak up. and you don't be. One thing I would say as an advice, how I overcame it, I wouldn't go to my manager and just say, hey, I have this issue, or how do I fix this? I would go with them as, I have this issue, and here's how I think we can fix it. I would come always with the solution, whether it's right or not. Managers like it when you come to them and you give them an option or a solution, because sometimes they don't have the answer to it. And that's a way to show you have stance power, and you're giving them an option and some ideas instead of just being the person giving them a complaint or something that you want them to fix. You actually try to be the solution finder. That's something that a lot of corporations look for. I really like being in a place where people didn't think I should be, and how I overcame it is I just was really strong in my why I was there and why I wanted to be there and what I was doing. Really solid on why I wanted to be there. If you believe you belong there and you're sure of why you're there, people will listen to you and they'll believe you.
So we had another question in the chat. What attracted you to tech when you were a major in theater?
A free phone. I mean, a free phone, part of it. And then also, I like the stability of having a little more income than if I was waitressing or doing something else. And I'm curious. So part of the thing about being an actress even is curious, imagination, willingness to learn. It's the same things. It's those same skills from acting that went over into the tech world. I had to give presentations, so that helped when I wasn't afraid to speak. But it really helped that I was curious and that I really like to create, same thing you do in the acting world. And you can do all those in the tech world. And I think I just really liked the fact that I could be a part of something at the beginning. I like being new technology. When new things come out, I like to play with it. So that kind of drew me into it. I still do acting. I'm on a board of Act Theater right now. I'm still involved with the arts. It's just that reality, I became an adult and had bills to pay. And I just decided that this is something I could do that I really loved. And I still love my art too. So I kind of just do both.
Okay, so we have another question in the chat. The question is, why is Tableau so important if it's for converting raw data into understandable charts?
The reason I really like Tableau as opposed to, there's lots of other data tools out there, is because it makes it so simple to use. A lot of the programs you actually have to know how to program. Or if you want to make a change, you have to go in and change the formula. With Tableau, you just have, as long as you already have your data loaded into there, you can drag and drop. While it's important, right now they're using the same kind of data, and Tableau is being used for tracking COVID. One of the biggest reasons I went to Tableau is when Ebola, I'm saying it wrong, and other diseases were out there, malaria was huge. We actually, I used to be there, but we went with PATH and found with the data how to really get all the vaccines and everything distributed, and helped like get malaria under hand in third world countries. That's huge. I mean, to me, any kind of technology that can help the world, that's the reason I went with Tableau. Now, I know that it does with other corporations and stuff too, but I like the fact that we're using it for, you know, everything from what we did with Ebola and what we did with malaria to now doing it with COVID. Data is important. Data is everywhere. Everything we do is data. All the shopping apps, everything, they have to know how many people are shopping for what, when, it's all data. So that's why it's important.
All right, here's another question for you in the chat. It's, how does someone in high school network for their future careers?
Yes, definitely. So you've got friends who've got parents. Where do they work? Ask them, can you have a talk with them? They'll actually be thrilled that you want to talk to them probably. I mean, just start, if you, I don't know if you guys use LinkedIn. I know young people use all these other things, but I would say really you guys get on LinkedIn. that is the thing that we're using in the corporate world. Also just people that you know or your parents may know, just ask, can you have a 15-minute, 20-minute chat with them about what they do and how they got into it. I'm going to tell you right now, LinkedIn is big. If you guys go, if you have LinkedIn, LinkedIn in with me. I have thousands of people because I do help people every day, like connect with other people. But yeah, just use your network, use the adults you know around you, your teachers, and just see if they know someone who works at a company that you'd like to know more about.
In the chat, we also have how are acting and computer science different, and how does that affect your involvement in both?
So acting is scarier than would ever be in computer science, like the rejection. So I had to go out there and audition. You have to audition for parts. You don't know if you're going to get them. You don't know, what's going on, what they're looking for. And with science, it's a definite. Like there's, this is what I need you to do. This is why I need you to do it. You have a deadline. So for me, it was more stable and it felt more secure. Now I still love the acting, and I love the acting because I love the adventure of it. I love being spontaneous, and I do love going on stage and bringing people to another world for a little bit. But it also translates into my sales jobs I had. When I had to get up in front of someone and convince them on why this product was going to be good for them, why it works, and get them to listen to me and make them understand why it works for their company. And so the two worlds come together pretty well for me. The difference is one, to me, felt more stable, which is the tech world, as opposed to the acting world. To be highly successful in acting is pretty hard. And so I chose tech as far as how to make my living.
Another question in the chat is asking, have you ever met any obstacles transferring from theater over to tech?
Yeah, I would say I was lucky with the networking that I had a high up get me under their wing. But once I got the job, I did have other people who questioned why I should have the job, and I had to prove it. So I think also being a Black woman, I had to prove it. So I didn't really think the acting was what was really in the way. I think more being a Black woman in tech was more of what I had to overcome. I don't think anyone really cared that much about the acting degree once they saw me work and saw what I can do. But I would say with anything, I just had to prove myself and be in front of the right people. And I really think that you have to network and get the right people behind you. That's 90% of it. I mean, if I didn't have the right people when I went and talked to the CEO about my new department, I probably wouldn't have gotten in front of the CEO. So you do need to have your network of people who believe in you and that will help promote you.
That's really interesting, thank you. So as you mentioned, there's like networking that's really important, and I was wondering, or the chat was wondering rather, how is acting related to technology, and like what kind of skills did you find that kind of crossed over between the two fields?
Definitely public speaking, being able to convince someone to portray what you're feeling as far as product and why you believe in the product. I would say also in acting, you get a lot of no's. So if you go into sales, that definitely helps. You're going to get a lot of no's in sales also, but you learn how to overcome those and don't take them as personal rejection. That's another thing too. It taught me how not to take things personal. Business is business. Sometimes people make business decisions or you may not get a promotion. It's not necessarily because you're the wrong person. It could just be a certain thing happened at this time. This person just knows this person better. Hate to say, that's what happens sometimes. So you don't take it personal. Just go, okay, that wasn't it. That door may have shut, and move to the next thing. I think being an actress helped me move quicker and not get so stuck or upset when something didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Hi, another question we have in the chat is, are students who don't attend top-ranked universities at any sort of disadvantage, or do they face any like extra obstacles?
Now, I'm going to be honest, depends on what job you're going for. I would say when you're going for like the top engineer jobs or something like that, I don't want to say disadvantage, but there could be, I mean, being honest, at Tableau, we had people who created Tableau were from Stanford. So Stanford and Harvard and Princeton people seem to get promoted because they just knew the right people. But that's where I come in different. I went to Cornish, you guys, Cornish College of the Arts here in Seattle. it had nothing to do with the degree. It had to do with picking the right job. I picked a job. I had a good enough phone voice. Remember, I studied computer and I knew how to type fast enough. Pick something to use the skills that you have and then let your degree kind of carry you to the next level. Degree is just to get you in the door. That's all it is, to get you in the door. I don't care if you have a master's. If you can't do the job correctly and you don't have the right people behind you, it's not going to make a difference. So just get yourself in the door. The degree will help you, like when people look at your resume, to get you into the door. And then you take your skills you have, your God-given skills, and exploit them. Use them. Use what you have to move you up. Customer care was the beginning, but as I told you, I moved up quickly and I moved through different jobs. And that was because I took the time to learn the technology and learn the different jobs.
So we have another question in the chat. The question is, what is the best advice can you give for young women trying to enter into tech?
Yes, definitely. Study, know the technology. You're probably going to be asked more than, unfortunately, a male going for that interview. So when you go to interview for whatever that, say you're going for Google or whatever company, make sure you understand the technology that you are applying, that department you're applying for. If you're applying for the AI department, or whatever department you're applying for, make sure you really know that technology. Go ahead and try to see if there's anything online that you can study. Have the technology part down, because that's where they're going to ask you the most questions and really challenge you. But you can do it, and get a mentor. I would highly suggest go like Google, find people that are in the industry that are women. Luckily, there are more of us out there, and get with some of them. And I know a lot of women are looking to help young women, and I am. So LinkedIn me. I know a lot of people can hook you up with, but just get with a mentor and get someone who can actually give you the ins and outs and the truth and help you through the interview process. I help people get ready for the interviews all the time.
All right, thank you for that answer. And we have another question in chat. It is, can we have your LinkedIn/Gmail if we would like to email you about questions in the future?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you an easy one. I have a website for my company. It's sarah.spl. No, actually Sarah, my whole name, sarahpierrelewis.com. That easy, sarahpierrelewis.com. If you go onto there, you'll see, you can email me through there. You can do a thing, and you can do talk to me. What I'm trying to say, contact. Yes, you can do a contact and then put your email and stuff there and I can find you. And then LinkedIn is the same thing, just sarahpierrelewis.com or Sarah Pierre-Lewis, and I'm in LinkedIn. I don't have a Gmail. My email is sarah.spl.coach.
All right, and we have a certain question about Tableau. So does Tableau relate to coding, or is it something separate from that?
It's separate from that. So we have developers, but Tableau is an analytic software that, long as you have the data set, and you can get the data set from anywhere, anything, you can put it into a Excel sheet, like just line up your data, and then you upload it into Tableau. So Tableau is the interface, and once you upload the data, as you saw in the video, you can play with it all different kinds of ways. You can slice it, dice it, move it around however you want it to look, and you can do graphs. One thing I really used a lot of was I did the whole United States. So I would load in every single customer in the United States for Tableau. Then I can lasso, I can literally put a circle around a particular city so I could see how many people in that city may have taken courses or that kind of thing on who to call on. So there's so many things you can use Tableau for, but it's just for uploading data and how to display it to tell a story. So if you want to find out how your inventory is doing, to how many people got COVID tested, where our numbers are, all you can do is put in raw data and it will transform into that information for you.
Awesome. And our last question is going to be, why is diversity in STEM?
You blinked out a little bit. Why is diversity?
Oh, sorry. My question is diversity in STEM important?
Yeah, it's very important, because if you're going to be a technology company and you're going to be saying that your technology is for the world, then shouldn't your customers look like I mean, you need your customers to be diverse in order to adapt your technology. So that's something I know when I left Tableau, they were really trying to do, because if you have technology out there and it's primarily only going to certain people in certain sectors, then you're leaving out a whole bunch of other customers. One of my big movements is I want to make sure that people in third world countries, children in third world countries, don't get left behind with technology. My husband is from Haiti, and we have a home in Haiti, and I am very, very adamant about getting technology over to Haiti, just for the reason you said. We've got all these different people out there that haven't even been exposed to technology, who would be amazing customers to this technology, but they just don't even know it's there, and they don't have the opportunity to take part in it. So yeah, that's a big thing of mine.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah, and the moderators for that Q&A. Next up, we will have our panelists for the computer science panel. Each panelist will give an introduction of themselves and their research for about 3 minutes, followed by an open Q&A. Sarah, you are welcome to stay for the panel. Our first panelist introduction is Anna, so please take it away.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, I caught half of Sarah's talk. It was so awesome. Just wanted to throw it out there. Really great. So my name is Anna Neshiba. Right now, I'm a developer at Teladoc. However, at the end of the month, I will actually be transitioning over to technical program manager. So I'm just in the middle of ramping up in that transition right now. I studied computer science and art history, so very liberal artsy. I began my career at United Technologies, which is like this huge conglomerate corporation, very big, very bureaucratic. And I left them about 1.5 years ago and moved to a very small agile team at just a little 5-year-old startup, which just merged a couple months ago with Teladoc in one of the largest mergers in healthcare history. And so now I work at Teladoc. I really believe in the intersection between aesthetics, art, and technology. That's obviously my background. And I have lots of opinions about early career and advocating for yourself and making sure that you're doing exactly the thing that you want to do and that you're looking forward towards your next steps. And also about the differences between working at a really big corporation versus a really small and agile one. So thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Anna, for that introduction. And our next introduction is from Evan, so please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? All right, Anna, that was fascinating, and I absolutely agree about just finding your right career path and being part of a great team. My name is Evan Shea, and I'm currently a data scientist at Amazon. My team works on making purchasing decisions a little bit easier and a little bit more fair for customers of our platform at scale. And so anytime you purchase a product and you look at the facts section, if you see an inaccurate fact on there that doesn't really reflect the product, let me know. We're trying to build artificial intelligence models to make it easier for folks to purchase these types of products. But I guess what I'm really excited to share with you all today outside of my work is just my passion for education, and especially for those of you who are here in the audience and all the wonderful students who have put together this opportunity with Lisa. I just wanted to speak to you all and let you know that when I first started out my journey in computer science, I actually didn't think that I was going to be doing this at all. My parents back in high school, I said, hey, there's this computer science thing, maybe you should actually take a look. And I am not exaggerating when I say I fell asleep on the second page of that book. I was just so bored out of my mind. And as a high schooler, I can remember asking all the time, when am I ever going to use what I'm being taught in the classroom right now? And so if that resonates at all with you, I just wanted to share briefly about my story in case it helps. I always thought I would go into something like teaching or maybe even business, areas that are extremely human and involve interacting with other people. And I think something that I've found that I love about computer science is that you can reach and impact lots of people in a deep and meaningful way. And so once I hit college, I think was when I started to really enjoy computer science and specifically data science as a way to make sense of the world around me, the same way that Sarah was talking about, to tell a story. And so one story I'll share with you real briefly in the time that I have is, let me try to share my screen here. This was a project that I came up with after I tore my ACL. I don't know if any of y'all played basketball here, but I'm a huge basketball fan and I dabble in playing from time to time. And I tore my ACL when I was in college. And so all of a sudden, the intramural team that I was leading and that I was captain on, I couldn't walk on the court anymore. And so I wanted to find a way to still be connected to my team and my folks who are playing basketball. And so my friend and I, Elliot, who you see here in this frame, built an artificial intelligence project that ended up becoming my thesis for how do you actually train a computer to coach humans to learn how to play basketball better. And so if you just look at this picture frame, this is an example of data that our computer system might see. And we actually trained the model to be able to predict whether or not someone will make this kind of a free throw 90% of the time. And if you were to guess randomly, you'd get about 50%. So I'm happy to share more about how we did that, but I just want to point out that there's a lot of fun projects you can do, and the power of internets and math and data and everything you all are learning in school nowadays makes it so easy for this generation to be able to access computer tools and to go from ideas to something cool that you could create and invent on your own very accessibly. So again, just super excited that you're all here. Thanks for taking the time to invest, and I'm happy to, share more with you. If I can figure out how to unshare my screen. I'm not actually great at working in tech, which is funny. I'm not a great tech person. How do I do this? Okay.
All right. Thank you, Evan, for that introduction. And our next introduction is from Gary, so please take it away.
Hello, my name is Gary Sullivan. My background is I grew up in Kentucky and went originally to the University of Louisville for engineering school after high school, mostly because other people said, maybe you should try engineering because you're good at math. So I gave it a shot. And once I got there, I actually found I liked it a lot better than I was liking this stuff in high school, because I was choosing my own interests. I was picking the courses and the things that I found interesting, and I found that I did better once I got into that context of being self-guided and looking for what I myself wanted to do. But then I went into defense work at Texas Instruments for a while and got kind of tired of working for a company and wondered what would happen if I did a more academic style career. So I quit after 3 years and went to UCLA and got I don't know why they accepted me, but I got a PhD at UCLA, and then I had a very charismatic teacher there at UCLA who was in compression of images and video. So that's what I did my PhD thesis on. And as we look right now at each other using video, believe it or not, we're using something called H.264 right now, which is a video compression format that I was the chairman of the designing of. So we had a big international project that ended in 2003 that developed H.264, which is also known as AVC, and it's been tremendously successful. So I overall am really happy that with the way the whole thing turned out. We I don't know if you can see my screen. We've gotten I've been on the stage for, I think, 5 Emmy Awards. 3 of them were things that I personally was the chairman of the project for, and it just shows a bit how far you can come from a sort of a humble and confused background in Kentucky to fairly prominent role in the world of international engineering. Anyhow, that's my story, and I've been doing international standards in terms of technology focus. It's on video coding, which is in the algorithms area of computer science, and involves a lot of probability and communication engineering and something called information theory, which I highly recommend learning something about if you get a chance. And now I'm the one that has to figure out how to stop sharing. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. And our next introduction is from Prince Will, so please take it away.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yep.
My name is Prince Will, and I'm a first-year PhD student at Cornell. I'm studying computer science, but more specifically, I'm studying the theoretical foundations of machine learning. And one of the things I've been looking into this semester, for example, has been in something called calibration. Essentially, one application of this, a good way to explain this is to imagine, you use machine learning to learn from data and to make conclusions about large amount of data. But a common problem that we have these days is that, sometimes the things you learn from the data don't happen to be consistent across different groups of data. So one example can be demographic groups of data. So we are looking at calibration. Sort of involves how do you learn and also stay calibrated across different groups of data, and so that's what I've been working on this semester, and it's very fascinating for me as someone who is very interested in computer science and also in math as well. And I did my undergrad at Harvey Mudd College in California. Before Harvey Mudd, I grew up in Nigeria, and the story of how I got interested in computer science is actually it's actually a bit interesting, So my dad just decided to bring back one computer, desktop computer that was faulty at work, and he brought it back home, and I was really curious and decided to try to just get my hands dirty and see what this is all about. And so I managed to get it working. I don't know exactly how I did it. I question whether it was really that faulty in the first place, but I got it working, and that was how my experience with computer science really began. And since then, it's just been a journey of learning more and more by just exploring myself. And I had initially just started out really interested in just the hardware stuff, but slowly just gotten a lot more theoretical as I've gone through, partly because in school I really enjoyed doing math, and so I've been lucky and progressed to getting an undergrad here in the US, and even being able to get into a PhD program. So it's been a very exciting journey, and hopefully I can get to a point where I feel like I have really been able to take this thing I enjoy and being able to make impact with the work I do. And I think that's going to be it for my story, and I'm going to hand it back.
All right, thank you so much for that. Our next introduction is from Simon, so please take it away.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone hear me okay. So I'm an assistant professor at University of Washington at the School of Computer Science and Engineering. I grew up in Beijing, China, and I had my undergrad at UC Berkeley, where I studied math and computer science. When I was undergrad, I had some interns at tech companies and also had some research experience at school. So I prefer more on some mathematical components on the research, but also want to have some real world impact. So I decided to do, just like principal, I decided to do theoretical foundations of machine learning, which has strong mathematical components there, but also has real world impact. So I had my PhD at Carnegie Mellon University. And then during my PhD, my most research is on theoretical foundations of deep learning and reinforcement learning, these kind of buzzwords in recent years. So for deep learning and reinforcement learning, we know it's very successful in many applications like facial recognition or AlphaGo, something like that. But actually, in many cases, they often fail as well. So we want to understand why. So that's my research is about. And research, just like Gary said, we use a lot of probability theory and information theory as well. So that's where the math come in. It's very important. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to share more with you.
All right, thank you. Our next introduction is from Sonali, so please take it away.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, okay. Hi, I feel like I have the least experience out of all of you, which is like crazy. I love hearing about all of your stories, which is great. But anyways, my name is Sonali. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in my last quarter as an undergrad at UW Seattle. I'm pursuing a degree in biomedical informatics, which I can explain later if not many of you know what that is, but I was born and raised in California, and I was introduced to STEM through my family. My parents are teachers. My brother did a master's in physics and math, kind of crazy. And when I got to UW, I thought I was going to go to computer science, but I ended up doing informatics instead. I really liked that I could do UX UI design. I didn't know that was something I was interested in, but it was. I could have an intersection between, somewhat of humanities or psychology and technology in the same way. And being able to make an impact on my community was very important to me and something I didn't know I wanted to do beforehand. So yeah, a lot of you might not know what informatics is. It's kind of the intersection between technology and like human values. So like at UW specifically, we do a lot of design and development of information systems, user interfaces. We kind of create apps, technologies, etc. And there's a lot of things you can do. It also includes cybersecurity and my track, biomed info. So for biomed info specifically, I kind of liked it because I always kind of wanted to go into a medical profession growing up, but I didn't have the funds for it or the determination to be a doctor. So I definitely thought this was a good way for me to get into STEM and into technology, but not be only coding, not go into only medical. This was a good intersection for me. And yeah, I am doing research right now with a psychology lab, which we're kind of studying children and their spatial and temporal memory, especially if they're bilingual. We're kind of looking into how they look at time and space, which is pretty fun. I do a lot of the coding and visualizations for them, but I can still get into like psych research, which is pretty cool. And after graduating, I do want to go to grad school and hopefully do some research in public health or genetics. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you for that introduction. And our final introduction will be from Sarah. You may have already heard her, but for those who weren't here, please introduce yourself, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Pierre-Lewis, and no, I've got you beat on being the outlier. I have none of what any of you have. So I do have a good math. I did take math. I realized, God, I did take calculus. But other than that, I'm an acting major who ended up in tech. So I'm that person that, how the hell did she get there? So I have a very much an interest in learning things. I love when there's new technology and how to break it. So when I was in cellular, I loved it because we would get a new cellular phone before it was even out to the public. And I'd have to figure out how it worked, how to make it work and what the problems were. That is fascinating to me. So I didn't realize how analytical it was, but that's why I started. And I did a lot of that, and I started doing it for large corporations with big systems. So I sold systems and stuff to corporations. So I had to learn a lot of technology that I didn't realize, learn how to program a little on the back end. And once again, wasn't trying to. And now I learned data analytics working at Tableau. I'm a career coach, so I can help everyone. And I coach everyone from all kinds of fields, people that are going for their PhD, people that are in everything, because the basic is I try to bring the magic that's inside every one of, like, every one of you guys are so talented. Everyone has a special skill that they're good at, and I'm good at bringing that out in people. So I like to call it bringing the magic, bringing that thing out and helping people find the direction so they end up where you guys are, where you're loving your job and you're loving what you're doing. You guys are so lucky because there's a lot of people who don't know, and they don't know which direction to go, and they're guided by what someone tells them they should do instead of what they should do. So I'm honored to be on this panel with you guys. It's so refreshing to see people living their dream and doing what they really love.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you everyone else for those incredible introductions. We will now transition into the Q&A portion. We received some questions when you registered, so we will ask those first, but please still ask questions in the chat. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. Our first question is for any panelist. What advice would you give to a person who doesn't know much about tech, but is interested in learning?
I'll be happy to take that if nobody else jumps in. I would say to get in and try a few courses in the direction that you think may be interesting, and look for teachers who can be your mentor in that area as well, because the connection to other people is very powerful. And that goes also to among students. I would say it's really great to find a study group and to find other students with like-minded interests that can help you find your way among yourselves. In this COVID world, that kind of human connection is probably more important than ever, because we often feel like we don't have the strong bonds that people might have had a few years ago. But fitting into a new environment is always a problem, even without COVID. So I would say form study groups, find mentors, and follow your own interests and paths. See where it leads.
Yeah, and to add to that, to add a little bit to that, I personally haven't found any learning experience more impactful than actually doing a project yourself. Like doing a project it's for me completely different from taking a class. A class, it's the lessons are all fixed and all, but doing a project is powerful in a way that you just pick something you're incredibly passionate about, and then you find all the resources that you need, all the learning resources you need, and then you are able to teach yourself as you get through the project. It can be as ambitious as you want it to be, and along the way you might even be able to learn 3 courses or like 10 courses, and it's just I think it's a great way to just bring your passion into what you are trying to learn.
Awesome, thank you. Those were really interesting responses. So from the chat, we've got a question for all panelists or anyone who would like to answer. What's something that you wish you could have told your younger self looking back on it from where you are now?
Oh, there's too much to choose from. All the things you want to say. I do have one though. One of the things that I think that I really struggled with in my early career was like the feeling of being stuck, that, you know, I wasn't sure I invested all of this time and like money into my education. And, you know, I started out at my first company, and the work was really interesting, but just the environment of like a big corporation with very few places to go, super established, was just like not for me. And the thing is, like, you just kind of aren't stuck, you know, when you are an engineer, like in particular, but also just like the tech industry is a very fluid place. Like, things are changing very rapidly, and it is an engineer's market. And so you can go to another place, and that's fine. You can also, I mean, like Sarah totally brought this up, but like, you know, your supervisor is there to help you. Like, that is their role. And if they're not doing that, then they are not like fulfilling their role, and you should talk about that. And so, you know, making sure you make the most of your supervisor, make the most of your position, and making sure you're doing that constant self-reflection, and make sure that you're like happy in the position that you are in. And if you are not, you know, ask yourself what you can do, you know, to change your current situation, whether or not that's at your current organization or at another one. So that's, yeah. Just don't feel stuck. You're not stuck. Like, you're doing good.
That was really inspiring, Anna. And one point I just want to add to build off that point as well is, I know I personally faced a lot of gatekeeping when I was younger, and that's probably the biggest thing that I want to get across, is that, you know, regardless of your background or however you may choose to identify yourself, you belong in tech. And there's a place for you here, and there's a lot of structures. I think Sarah did a really good job speaking to this in her keynote, but there's a lot of structures out there that might make it, you know, easier for folks who have attended elite universities or whatnot. And I can empathize with that pressure of being a student right now, you know, not to make it any more real for you all, but it's not easy. And I just want to message that, especially in a field like computer science, where, just like Principal said, so much information is available on the web. Sometimes the biggest enemy to getting started is really just that voice in your mind. And it's not easy to say just to get over it. But I think you'll find, if you look for plenty of examples of folks who have just said, I don't need to go to, you know, this elite university, or maybe I am part of it, but, you know, even if I got a C or a D, I can still belong, and I can make a difference here. So that was probably the biggest thing that I would have told myself a couple years ago.
For me, I would say we emphasize a lot on your technical skills like math or coding, but one important aspect is like your public speaking and writing, like your communication with other people. Even if you do engineering jobs, it's very important to convey your ideas or convince other people your project's important. And that's really what I learned during my graduate school. Like, when I write papers, when I present my research, that's something you can really communicate with other people. And that's really important too in the field and in your engineering jobs as well.
To add on to that, I also agree communication is very, very important. I, like, back when I started college, like, my communicating skills were really, really bad. I couldn't answer a phone at my job without like stuttering. It just got like really intense, right? But I kind of knew I needed to work on it to like get past those roadblocks, to communicate with my teams in the future, to communicate with my teachers, to be good at school, and like through those communication skills, I know I can take those and like use it at my job and use it at whatever, I don't know, research things I do. And I also agree communications and public speaking, those types of things are really kind of important. So don't let them go, you know. It's good to like build on those skills too. Yeah, anyways.
I would say that is something that helped me when I wasn't as good in science. At least I could speak. So, and I would learn. So I learned, and when I did learn, I felt more confident speaking. So someone asked me earlier about a woman in STEM and a Black woman in STEM. That really helped me because I knew I could speak, but then when I learned it and learned how to speak, it was very powerful to be able to get up in the room and give a technical presentation. I'll never forget teaching a bunch of guys how to use their cell phone at, I won't name the company, but it was really one of those. And I did it, and the pin could have dropped in that room because they just weren't expecting a Black woman to lead them through this. So it's a very powerful thing. So yes, speech and knowing what you're doing and just having that passion in your belly, that thing that you are sure of what you're doing, and the passion will get you there always, because people will listen to you if you do it with passion.
That was a great discussion between the panelists. And we have another question in the chat, and this question is for Dr. Du and Principal. And the question is, what new advancements are next in computer science and technology, and when will machines take over the world?
Principal, do you want to start, or I can start?
I think you should start. I think you know more about this than I do.
Well, so in recent years, at least from the research point of view, machine learning is definitely the advancement in recent years and being a very hot topic. Like we're using data to improve our everyday life in general, like in self-driving cars, in videos, in image, or in like natural language processing. These are the hot topics. And seeing in the future, the next 5 to 10 years, this will be something that change our everyday life as well. And whether like machine will take over life, I don't believe it for our generation, at least. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I agree with everything Dr. Du has said so far. You know, continuing with like the point about machines, yeah, we're still a long way from machines taking over. Computers today still have to be they have to be spoken to in a very specific and well-defined and, you know, structured manner. And so being able to transition to the point where they can be fully adaptive or anything close to that is we're still a long way from that, I think. But yeah, like Dr. Du pointed out, natural language processing, self-driving cars, there's lots of data. People have realized how much and how impactful data can be. And so if you think about the different points of that whole pipeline of trying to get data and to get the most information out of that data. So like the theory of trying to understand as much with as few data as possible, and just the like mechanical part of like trying to quickly get through as many data as you can, just like the CPU power, so these are just the areas of research that people are increasingly excited about and just increasingly trying to develop as much as possible. Thank you.
Just add to another point, beyond like machine learning and AI, another I think it's very promising area is quantum computing. Although we haven't seen its real power yet, but we have seen a lot of progress in recent years in both school and companies. So maybe in the next around 10 years, we can see some big breakthrough that will completely change our mindset. So that's, if you're interested in tech, that's some area you can look for.
I think we're not far away from the point where computers can do better than people on average in a lot of things, and maybe they're only in isolated specific circumstances, but speech recognition seems like it's getting to parity now, and a big job in our economy is being a driver. I would not recommend training in planning a long-term career in being a driver. I think there's a number of places where these things, the new algorithms, can become better than people on average, and that's just amazing and brings up so many opportunities. And the people who figure out how to do those, how to design those things, and how to take advantage of what can be done, and are able to adapt to the circumstances created by that, are the ones who will be succeeding in the future, instead of being the buggy whip makers and stagecoach drivers of the past.
So if no one had anything to add on to that, there was another question in the chat. What types of challenges did you guys have to overcome in college in getting your computer science degree?
I mean, I guess I'll go. I recently graduated, just a couple years ago. Let's see. I mean, I think that it does really depend on like the type of institution that you're at. So if you're interested in a small liberal arts school versus like a large, state school, the challenges you'll encounter will be different, whether or not they're more like research oriented or possibly budgetary concerns are the main ones at small liberal arts schools. But I guess one thing that I encountered, so I mean, I did go to a small liberal arts school, and I loved it there. I really can't, sing the praises for the argument for liberal arts education. I do believe in the interdisciplinary thought and the interdisciplinary thought philosophy. However, because we were small, we did not have the same kind of access or pipelines into internships and industry opportunities that state schools have. So I had to be a real go-getter, when in finding those opportunities for myself. And I was lucky, my professors were excellent, and many of them helped me on that. And I did end up getting both research positions and internships throughout the summers of my college career at various organizations and other academic institutions. But it's just something that you have to go in knowing. Particularly if you're interested in those small schools that and then another thing was that we constantly had budgetary concerns, and so we would have things that the department needed, and so I was literally like there with my professors, like writing grants to get us the resources that we needed. Whereas I think that perhaps you wouldn't have to worry about those things at a larger institution. So just a couple things to think about when you're choosing, I guess, the college that you want to go to.
I would say it's also a valuable skill to learn how to live cheap. And maybe you should try to live cheaper even than necessary, because if you have the ability to borrow a bunch of money to get through school, that may not be a great idea in the long run. There are too many people out there who have student debts that they will be paying off for a very, very long time. I was personally unfortunate in being pretty poor when I was in at least undergrad school, but somewhat fortunate in not being able to borrow a whole lot of money. So when I got out, I somehow making it through that experience. I didn't come out with a lot of debt, but a lot of people do, and debt is not a good thing for you. You should really be careful about that.
So that's all, everyone. Oh, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was kind of gonna say like, yeah, budgetary concerns are a very, very big thing to deal with. It's really taxing on your mental health. Also, paying out-of-state tuition is not fun at all. It's kind of crazy, but I think like overcoming also like mental health barriers, not knowing what you want to do, barriers, along with like all of those budgetary concerns, was kind of like difficult for me. Especially since UW, like I am in undergrad right now, I'm still going through college, but like UW, for a lot of these constrained majors, you have to apply to the school and then apply to your major separately to be in the major that you'd like. And a lot of schools don't really do that, but UW does. And so yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to apply to. I did prereqs for like 7 different majors maybe in the first 2 years. I spent a lot of money not going towards the degree that I wanted it to go to, you know? So I feel like at least having a sort of idea of what you would want to do, you don't need to figure everything out like right when you get into college, and you can change really, really late. I have a few friends that change their majors in their 4th year of college, and then they go on to their 5th with a whole new major, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, at least like having some sort of idea of what you want to do, and kind of going towards that would probably be beneficial. You don't have to, but just an idea, just a thought.
I love that, Sonali. I think that is just so important. And I was actually waiting to hear your perspective, because you're the one that's probably most qualified to speak about that right now, actually being in school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just want to echo before we move on to that, you know, that the mental health is a big component, especially in an area that can be maybe over-indexed on how technical it is. I think we heard from all these panelists about how important it is to be human, to communicate, to follow your passion. And in a lot of college programs right now, especially if you think about going on to something like master's or PhDs, that might not be at the forefront of what keeps you in class. And so I think that finding some way to stay connected to a tribe, you know, a group of folks. One small thing I'll share is that when I transitioned from high school to college, I think I had to adopt this mindset of it's okay to be doing more things in groups, right? You hear so much in high school about don't cheat, don't plagiarize, don't look over each other's shoulders, and no one's saying you should be doing that in college, but office hours and spending time with a group of friends, I think, is just so critical to making it through from both the mental and the physical and the learning perspective.
All right, if that's all the panelists have to add. So we have a question from a panelist that says, how do I know I belong in tech and should pursue a career in the field?
I mean, I think you already do if you're thinking about it.
If you like it, you belong here. That's it. Just go for it at this point.
Like I said earlier, there's so many jobs, so there's no way you can't belong. There's marketing, there's sales, so you don't have to be technical to be in tech, so you belong.
All right, thank you for that answer. And we have another question in the chat. It says, how does working at larger tech companies differ from smaller ones?
Big difference. Startups, good news about startups, you get to create and do things. Bad about startups, no one's there to help you. So just think, if you're going to work at a startup, you really got to know the time you're going to put in and the energy. It can be a big payoff, because especially if it's something that's pre-IPO and you get stock and that kind of thing, but you are going to work your tail off. And mainly because there's no systems in place really to help you. You're going to have to create systems, or other people help create systems. So I did start at a company that was like that. It was worth it. I survived it, but it is a lot more work, as opposed when I worked for AT&T, everything was there and it was much easier to climb and move around. because there was more places to go, there was more opportunity, and there was a lot more training and things like that. So there are two sides, but it just depends on where you are when you graduate. Do you have debt? If you have debt, maybe go to the larger one. If you don't have a lot of debt, then go to the smaller one. I mean, it just depends on where you are physically, mentally, and spiritually when you finish college, which one you do. Nothing's a bad choice. It's just really, if you need something more established, then definitely go to the larger corporation. If you're ready to jump in and create and take a risk, more of a risk taker, then go to the startup.
Yes, I want to make sure to give anyone else the opportunity to talk about this, but I have so many opinions on like a large corporation, small, startup. I mean, so first of all, there absolutely is a benefit in being in having the name recognition of a large corporation just for your overall career. People, developers who do start out at like Apple or Google, like there's just no doubt people recognize it, they know it, it'll be an in. However, that is not your only option at all. Like, I think that there's actually usually sort of an over emphasis on trying to get into like, one of the big four, like to have that brand recognition. And, but like, it's just like not even the only route that you can go. I will say that when I was working at a big company, I felt like my options were very limited. It was so established, their hierarchy was so well established that, there's very strict ways to move up. There didn't really seem to be any kind of like horizontal movement, like basically what I'm doing now, which is like transitioning to a technical program management role. And so it's just far more strict. But yeah, you get the name, you also get the resources. So there's definitely something to be said. Startups, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, you have to be really flexible. But if it's a successful startup and you get in early, very big payoff. And if you are interested in analyzing process, if you don't want to, just kind of like come to work, do your job and go home, if you're interested in like analyzing and iterating and putting systems in place and ripping them out, then that's like a startup is a great place for that. One danger, just one final shout out, is that there is a little period of time with companies where they're kind of in between. They're like, maybe a 7 to 10 year startup, and they're very well established and successful, but they're not really big, where they want to treat you as though you're working at a startup, but they actually have the resources that they could stand up to support you. So that's just something to call out. You don't want to get caught in that place. You don't want to you make sure you're advocating for yourself and that you have all the time that you need,
I'll take this one as well. I spent 8 years at a fairly small company called PictureTel, which did video conferencing back before you could do it on a PC. And that was quite exciting. It was a relatively small company. It's really stimulating and exciting to be in a small company, but there's a lot of variability and randomness also that you have to deal with in that kind of environment. Another thing that I found once I ended up leaving that company, I joined Microsoft, and that's where I've been now for more than 20 years. A couple of things that are worth saying on the good side for being in a large company is, one is whatever you're interested in, the company is interested in. There's a very broad range of impact at a big company that has lots and lots of stuff going on. You can find somebody in the company who's interested in whatever area you want to investigate. Where, in contrast, in a small company, you better be laser focused on what they are trying to do at that time within the next 3 months, because they're going to be dead if they don't do it, and they have to get it done. So you have to be directly in their line of sight at a small company. Another thing that's good about a big company is when you do something and actually get it into a product, you get it shipped, the impact is huge. You can say, you know, I did this thing. I put in this piece of something that now 1 billion people use, and you know, that's really exciting to know that you're really affecting people's real lives, where something that you do in a startup may be buried when the startup disappears or gets acquired and dissipates into something bigger. A lot of your efforts will not have the reach in a startup that they could in a large company. Just a couple thoughts there.
Awesome. So we have another question from the chat, and the question asks, for any of the panelists, are there any prerequisites that you needed to take in computer science to start your college journey?
Personally, I got into a program, and it seemed like there was a pretty well specified track that I needed to follow in order to pursue that path, and I more or less followed it. So I didn't find that to be a particular difficulty. I have a niece right now who is in her last quarter of university studies. She's a senior, and she couldn't get into one of the classes she needs to graduate. So things like that happen. She's working on trying to finagle her way into this class that she needs to be in order to graduate on time. It does happen, having a hard time getting into the right classes, but as far as knowing what to take, I think you will get pretty good advice on the path that you ought to follow in terms of prerequisites and so forth. Personally, I mentioned it before, but I would really encourage people to study probability and statistics. I just love that stuff, and I think it's something that should be taught much earlier in the whole path of any technologist. That's where a lot of fun is really at, and highly recommend that.
I'm so sorry about your niece. I really do feel the struggle. But I also agree with the statistics thing. I think everybody should take statistics. The last time I took statistics was in high school, but I really should retake it. Anyways, I think in terms of prerequisites, it really depends on the person. Coding, computer science, tech comes easier to some people and it comes harder to a lot of other people. I'm one of those people who it comes a lot harder to, so it took a while for me to actually be interested in coding or tech or get good at it, understand what I was doing. I wish I could have had coding classes in high school, or like I wish I could have understood this a bit easier. But I think it really just depends on you and your learning style as well, and like what you're able to do. It's okay to be realistic and say like, oh, I don't think I'm as good. Maybe I should prepare more. If this is something you really want to do, that's definitely okay too. But it just depends on the person.
That's really interesting. Thank you. So we have a question in chat for anyone maybe who knows a bit about this or has any experience in this field. Do you have any suggestions for possible majors or careers that kind of combine computer science or technology with design and perhaps the more artistic side of things?
Informatics, baby. Definitely informatics is a huge, that's literally what it is. It's a cross-section between design and technology, and there's a lot that you can do in that little cross-section. You can do more graphic design things, you can do more technical coding things. Yeah, if you, I don't know, go on UW's website or any other informatics program websites, you can learn a lot more about design or user research or user interfaces and how to design those, or the design process in which people go through to, you know, actually like spread out apps and see like this is what they're made of, this is what they do, this is each like function. Yeah, you should look into informatics.
So one subfield of computer science is called human-computer interaction, or HCI. That's where many people are using their design skill combined with coding or technology to design better, for example, interfaces between the computer or any kind of hardware with the human. And that's a very trendy area. I would say if you're interested in design and technology, there's something you can look for.
Okay, so if none of the other panelists have anything to contribute to the discussion, we have another question in the chat. And the question is for any of the panelists to answer. And the question is, what is the largest obstacle you have faced during your computer science career? And what advice do you have on overcoming those kinds of roadblocks?
I could kick us off on this one. Yeah, actually, on the question of working at a small versus big company, I actually started my career at a startup, and I kind of wish I had taken advice from Sarah, Gary, you know, Anna, and others, because it wasn't very financially stable, but it was something I was really passionate about. And you know, when you're putting so much just heart and effort into that product, I think there's a very real risk of burnout. And I'll admit that I faced that. I think a lot of people who just went into startups, that was really the vogue thing when I graduated, and still is pretty vogue. I still think it's a great place to start your career. Don't get me wrong. Like, I learned so many skills, but you definitely get thrown into the fire. You know, I had actually a manager who came up to me and said, I was applying for a position to actually, you know, skill up, become a manager, and I was told flat out to my face, like, we don't think you have what it takes to herd cats. And I said, that's, you know, kind of a slap to the face a little bit. I think I hadn't brought, what I realized though is I hadn't really brought my entire self to work. You know, I think a lot of my coworkers might not have realized that I've been involved in kind of the nonprofit and advocacy space before, and that's a skill set that I have. So my biggest advice to you is, you know, first off, if you do hit an encounter like that, whether it's in the company or school or anywhere, sometimes it's not you that's the problem. Like, there are kind of real barriers that you can face, but either way, it's up to you to be able to work with the cards that you're dealt to work through it, right? And part of that is seeing your role as maybe more than just your job description, right? Or the bullet points that are listed out for you. Maybe you can bring some of these other sides of yourself to work too. But the conclusion of that was, you know, I left and I joined this great company called Microsoft, and the rest was kind of history after that. But it took like a little bit of time to go from point A to point B, for sure.
I think I went the reverse. I went to big company first and then small company. I think that's why it worked a little better, because I started at AT&T, which was AT&T Wireless was gigantic. But I think learning and we went through 7 mergers too. Well, that's a whole nother thing. We won't go into mergers, but I went through 7 mergers. So I think after that, I could do anything. I felt like I was Superwoman because I'd been through hell. So then going to Tableau when it was medium, it felt better. So maybe that's some advice too. Like I said, depends on where you are. It's hard to give advice on that because it depends on when you're finished where you are. But if you just went through political science, like these degrees, some of these degrees these guys are going through, I didn't, are hard, and you just come out of school for that, you might not want to go to a startup right away. You might get really burnt out. You're going to be tired. So think about that. Think about that. Do you need to just settle in for a minute? And that's where the Microsofts or the AT&Ts or the Amazons could come in for you, because you just got beat up for 4 years or 5 years or whatever. So think that's a thing to think about.
Thank you for your answers. And this next question is for Sarah. However, if any other panelists have good answers, then they can respond as well. And it says, what would you say to someone who is afraid of change?
Oh, that's a good one. Don't be, what I always would say, what is it that you really want? If you go for what you want, the change won't be as scary because you got a goal. So set yourself on, yeah, I'm going to have to move to another city. So what will that be like? What will I explore? What maybe will be the cool thing there? Or I'm going to a new job like I did. I changed jobs a few times. What's the benefit of going to that job? What's the fun thing I can find for that job? I do a trick. This is the coaching side of me, where I pick, if I have a bad day, I pick 3 things that went right. So what 3 things went right? And stick to that and try not to think about the fear. Stick to the what went right. And if you do that every day, I promise you it will work. It's gotten me through so much stuff. Just concentrate on what's going right and where you want to go, and just keep doing that, and the change won't be as scary.
All right. Thank you for your answer. So we have another question that asks, how do you manage mental health in college?
I I just have a little to add to this, and it's really just building off something Evan said earlier about finding friend groups, and I think friend groups and communities are very underrated. Like the because we don't really really factor it in as much. It's harder to realize how impactful and how much having your friends and the groups and the homework groups that you work with, how they can get you past really difficult situations. You know, situations where you feel like, for me, where there were times when I felt like I had a lot going on in my personal life, but just the fact that I had people who I did homework with that would check in to see if I would be able to make it through, and they would give me a break. Okay, this is not too difficult. We think you can do this. You know, here's all you need to really know to be able to get through this. And I think that was, you know, that really helped a lot in my own college experience in helping me get through things. And I'm sure other panelists would have a lot more to add to this.
Yeah, I agree very much. I think also with COVID, it's really, really hard for college students to make friends in this time period. I know a lot of freshmen are going to campus and not even able to meet anybody. They don't have anybody to rely on. Like, I understand. So in that case, if you don't really have people you trust or I think it's also good, or it helped me to learn how to practice self-love and like understand that whatever I'm going through, I can like show myself kindness and not be so hard on myself for everything that happens. And things will change and things won't go my way a lot of the time, but I'm capable enough and I'm strong enough to overcome them. And like just like telling myself that, showing myself love, self-care is really great. Taking some time off assignments, or telling your teachers, letting your instructors know, like, this isn't a good time for me, I need a break. That also can help too. So yeah, I understand it's hard to make friends, especially in this time, but I hope everybody can be a little bit kinder to themselves and get through whatever they're going through.
And it's good to know that most universities, for example, have a lot of resources that are available for people, and you should take advantage of those. Some of the places even that are set up as sort of mental health and counseling centers are just comfortable places to hang out to some extent and touch bases with other people and see what other people are going through. You don't have to feel like you have to just tough it out on your own. There are a lot of resources out there, and try to take advantage of them. I think it can be very helpful. It also, though, is sometimes helpful to focus on what you can accomplish and what you can control sometimes when the circumstances are confusing and difficult around you. Pick something that you can do and accomplish that, and you can use the comfort of the pride of being able to pick one thing and get that done, so that at the end of that day, even if you had 5 things to do and you only got one of them done, you can say, well, I got one thing done. I can go to sleep, and tomorrow maybe I'll get the next one done, or maybe I'll do 2 or 3 tomorrow. There's hope.
Awesome. So moving on to the next question. Someone in the chat had asked, what is a challenge that you didn't expect in computer science that came up?
I mean, I have something I'd like to bring up, but I'm not sure if the question is directed more towards like technical challenges or just kind of in the broader discipline of computer science and computer science careers. But I did like one thing that you should be aware of, and this has been mentioned several times by some of the other panelists, like there is gatekeeping, there is there is work hostility. Like one of the biggest challenges that I encountered throughout my whole career, from far more so than any technical challenge I encountered was hostility in the workplace and really vitriol, like hatred that some people felt entirely comfortable and enabled to share in the place spaces of work and shared spaces. And so I'm I think that you can deal with them in many different ways. You can use your institution, to your greatest advantage and go through all of the tiers, from your, your supervisor to HR to everything else. You can argue with them in the office if you feel and have the emotional capacity, to do so and show that you're not a person that, they can bring this to. And that any space around you is not for that. And then you can also leave, if nothing is working and you're not being supported, and you need to do that for yourself. And in general, tech companies are not always the most ethical. You can see them, you can look up their political donations, you can look up, their values, and you can observe even within the company, how well they're actually, fulfilling their values. And so I would say that the greatest challenge in computer science that I have felt is nothing, it's about the discipline of computer science, but it's actually nothing to do with computer science itself. So if anyone else would like to add, feel free.
Well, maybe echoing some of Anna's remarks. One thing I was recently learning about is the idea of what they call covering, where you feel the need to suppress part of yourself in order to be acceptable in the environment in which you find yourself. And that's not a good thing in the long term. It's a good tactic sometimes to get through short periods, but if you find yourself in in a place where who you are is not something that you think the people around you would be comfortable experiencing, then maybe that's not the place you should be honoring with your presence.
All right. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that, Joshua. I know we're at 6:10, so I'm not going to ramble for too long, but I do want to be real in saying that, yeah, racism and sexism are real in workplaces, and it's not just in CS, but I also don't want to paint a picture of doom and gloom either, because I think part of what's really beautiful about this industry is that you do have a lot of folks who are deeply passionate about things like data, and you have a lot of folks who are passionate about equity. And so that's definitely an avenue that, you know, I'd like to just throw out there as well for you to contribute to. I think not only just in how employees are treated, but some of the biggest technical challenges that CS is facing nowadays as well, right? Like I think Principal alluded to this earlier as well as Simon, but do your systems work well and equally the same way for all groups that you care about, right? Or is it really just made in the image of folks at work? So if anything, I think there's a big push right now to get folks from all different backgrounds, you know, and diversity on all fronts, right? Racial, gender-based, neurological, diversity, all those things matter. And I think the biggest thing that we can do in that space personally is to collect that data and to stand up for yourself and to organize others around you while you do it. And what I love about companies like Microsoft, Amazon is that, and startups too, is that there are these employee affinity groups that can lead the charge on this. And one of my friends who, she was a couple years ahead of me in college, she was the one to actually start tracking gender data, or one of the first, you know, in the Bay Area. And, you know, you look past now 10 years later, and it's made a huge difference in how companies everywhere are thinking about diversity and inclusion. So the world that you all will be entering, assuming you're in high school now, once you're in the workplace, it could be very different than the one we're in today. And I think a lot of that will be led by folks like yourself who are in the audience.
All right, thank you, Evan, and other panelists for those amazing answers. We have another question in the chat. It is, what are some good minors to pair up with computer science as your major?
I think it's hard to find a bad minor to compare to combine, because your career will benefit from the diversity of your experience, and so go off on tangents. They will be good for you in the long run.
As a nerd, I minored in French, so I mean, yeah, I think one should think of minors as, you know, an opportunity to do something as tangential as possible, and something that you're interested in exploring as much as, you know. Language, for me, I find it very interesting, and so I had the opportunity to also struggle with languages, and that was fun and and very humbling, you know, coming from CS and just going to French class where, you know, you get to struggle as well.
On the other way around, I would say if you are majoring in some other field, I do recommend to have a minor or at least learn some coding in computer science, because like computations really revolutionize many fields. So learning like coding or some knowledge about computer science is very useful generally.
Awesome, thank you. That's really useful advice. So I have a question from the chat here, and we'll probably be wrapping up pretty shortly here. But what are some good places to learn deep in machine learning for independent self-study, and like possibly other topics? What are ways you could learn more about it just in your own time?
I can answer it. I'm teaching machine learning this quarter. So generally, I would say at the beginning you do need to learn this linear algebra and basic coding. you want to really apply machine learning. But after that, there are many different good resources online, like Coursera or even YouTube videos to learn these materials. And there are many like big companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook. They provide very good tutorials to learn, for example, deep learning. They have many examples. You can try it out, and you can use your own data to try these deep learning models.
I would put in a pitch for high school robotics. I think high school robotics is the coolest thing in the whole world. Just saying. And you have a good program in high school robotics in the Bellevue School District. Some of those schools have active programs that are, I think, just awesome.
I'll also quickly add, not like to state like online platforms like Coursera, where you can learn entire courses. But I also just want to mention like Medium blogs, like just finding a blog that builds out a simple neural network. You can learn a lot more from just that one example blog that walks you through step by step. It does. I think it does this thing I find very effective, and then which is just masking out the details, and then slowly you can unearth those details one after the other, and it makes the learning process much more efficient for me.
And just to add one quick resource on before, I guess I don't want to keep folks too long either, but there's a website called fast.ai that I think is a free resource. It's actually aimed at kind of making the linear algebra and calculus and parts that are a little bit more out of reach for high school students traditionally. Not to say you can't do it, but it's not taught in school. But go check out fast.ai. And with Lisa's blessing, I'm also going to make a pitch for a program that Principal and I have been working on actually with Lisa as well. So we started up a new nonprofit called the Young Data Scientists League that'll be targeting K-12 folks, and I can put the URL in the chat if anyone here is interested. But we're going to be teaching you the foundations of data science and doing it in a way where you get to hopefully build authentic projects that speak to your own story and your own communities. And machine learning definitely is one component of that. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to connect afterwards. And thanks, Lisa, for letting me promote.
Do any other panelists have anything to add on? Are we good? Okay. And that concludes the Q&A. Thank you all so much for coming today. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our moderators and everyone who helped make this happen. To our attendees, you are encouraged to consider coming to other panels the rest of the week. You can join from the links on our website. Also in the chat is an after-event survey. Please, 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 if you have any feedback, submit it. We really appreciate any feedback at all. And that concludes STEM Fair.
Thanks,
everybody.
All. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Panelists, it was great to meet you. Good night, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.